Hey everybody, I am here. We're back in the new year with our Facebook Live interview series, again with the goal of providing much more transparency into the real estate business and kind of giving you guys a scoop into my world and the types of conversations I have every day with people in the business. Joined here today by my friend Larry Sweeny. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you for having me.
And Larry has a very interesting business, which we're going to dive into, called Handyman Heroes. I also dropped the URL in the link there. It's handymanhero.es if you want to take a look at the website. But Handyman Heroes is a very, very interesting business with a very unique twist on the handyman model. So we're going to dive into that today, talk to Larry about the founding of his business, kind of what the origin and the idea was, and then also talk about projects. A lot of people ask me kind of, how much should this kind of project cost, or should I hire a handyman or someone more specialized for this sort of problem? And so we're going to ask Larry all these kind of questions and more on this conversation today. And again, we want to include the audience too. So anytime you guys have questions, want things to be clarified, just feel free to type it into the comments there, and we'll jump right on it. But enough about the intro there. I kind of want to turn the floor over to Larry, our guest of honor today. First question, Larry, because this is always interesting to me, is when we talked a few months ago about the origin story, I thought that was a very smart insight you guys had. But what was the idea you guys had for starting the business, and how did you get into it?
Well, thank you, Brett. I want to thank you for having me on this. This is fantastic, and for your viewers to be able to share this, I appreciate the opportunity. I've been a contractor for 20 years. Now, this is San Francisco. Everyone's got a startup.
Yeah.
Okay. So the spin on that is I've actually been a building contractor for over 20 years, and I happened to be taking a hike with a buddy of mine up in Marin County, and we started kind of kicking around the idea that contractors tend to get busy, and maybe they don't have time for these smaller handyman types of projects, and we just kind of occurred to us that there was market demand. I used to, during the recession, I used to actually go out on the weekends because work was a little slow. I'd go out on the weekends and I literally put in water heaters and put in garbage disposals and things like that just on the weekends to stay busy. I realized my weekends were booked out 5 or 6 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
And
on those small projects.
On those small projects.
Wow.
And so all of a sudden there was a realization that there was a huge demand for that. So we came up with the idea, Handyman Heroes, and we kind of went into our due diligence where we just started running a couple of guys, started running a small crew, and the demand was off the charts. Wow. It was unbelievable as a resource to realtors, as a resource to home sellers, as a resource to home buyers. Across the entire spectrum of real estate, people had a real need for this relationship-based approach to serving those needs, and so the story kind of started to tell itself, and now kind of fast forward now 2.5 years later, it's my main business.
Wow. Yeah.
I got the tail wagging the dog. It became the thing, and we've just expanded and expanded.
Yeah, and the interesting thing when we talked early on was, like you mentioned, you started the business for realtors, and so that's kind of how we got hooked up. Was I was looking for some great people that I could refer to. You came up through several different sources, and here we are today. And the other thing I want to mention is Handyman Heroes. There's a technology play on the business too. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, there is, again, because this is San Francisco. There's 4 of us that actually founded the business. One of my co-founders is a data engineer. He's a data scientist. And so we looked at the prospect of scaling handyman services, and we looked at the possibility that really it reduces down to an information. A lot of your viewers probably understand this. It reduces down to information. Every business nowadays is an information business, and whether it's, oh, I told you to paint the wall a certain color, or whether it's, this is the garbage disposal we need for this installation, or don't let the dog out, or here's where the key is going to be, or whatever. There's a million pieces of information that go into every project, and we realized if we could start managing those pieces of information and keeping a handle on that, then we could take good handymen, all the guys that work for me are very, very good, and if we provide that information management layer on top, we could deliver what turns out to be a world-class, exemplary type of a service.
Wow. And speaking of kind of diving a level deeper into the handyman business, handyman is kind of a generic term for all different types of projects, like you mentioned with the garbage disposal, water heaters. I saw, if you guys go on the website, you'll see things like carpentry and plumbing and electrical. Can you give us a sense of the types of projects that you guys have taken on so far?
Well, we take on a large spectrum of projects, and because we are a licensed contractor, we are able to take on larger projects as well. So it could be anywhere from kitchens, bathroom remodels, small projects like rot repairs, windows, doors, small electrical repairs. We're licensed for electrical. We're a licensed C10 electrical contractor. Yeah. Again, it's relationship based. So we've tried to position ourselves to serve the need of the client as it arises, and then earn the opportunity to serve the next need. I've kind of used an analogy. It's like every time you go to the dentist, you don't open up the phone book and start looking for a dentist. Yeah. You already have one, and we want to be that trusted vendor.
Gotcha. Same with real estate too.
Right.
So that's the goal, is to have repeat business, referrals, and build it off relationships. And you mentioned something very important there. You guys are all certified. Can you just, for people that maybe don't know the difference, like why does that matter?
Well, the state of California requires contractors to be licensed, just like requiring realtors to be licensed. Yeah. And that provides a layer of protection. It requires us to carry $2 million general liability of insurance, be fully bonded, and my guys are employees. So that's, again, in this sort of startup environment. Yeah. Hiring employees gives me that level of control and that level of accountability over the service that we're providing, because they work for me. Yeah. They're wearing our t-shirts and they're showing up representing our brand, which is we're very passionate about. So that's a differentiator compared to, let's say, if you go to an Angie's List or a Craigslist.
Where it's all contractors.
Well, it's all independent.
Yes.
So, if the guy doesn't show up or breaks something or whatever, you're going to call Craig. Craig doesn't care. There's no recourse. Yeah, yeah. And whereas when you're dealing with a professionally run, an organized business, the way we've kind of established this, there is recourse. It's going to go up the line, and we're going to solve your problem.
Gotcha. Which is very important. And then say, we talked about this before too, but say that someone does want to start a project with you guys. What's the typical flow from, hey, my faucet's broken, to actually getting someone in the house? Like, kind of what are the steps involved there?
Well, it's very easy. They can email us, they can call us, they can actually download our app for the iPhone, or they can just fill out a web form. So all those inquiries funnel into my office. We have a live human answering the phone who's going to basically establish that, is going to basically understand what the needs of the project are. And we have several divisions of the company, whether the project is big or medium or small. Small jobs, we'll probably be able to give you some kind of price guidance over the phone. Gotcha. On a larger project, we're willing to send out one of our estimators to come do a site survey, and then we'll write up a proposal for that.
And is there a cost to the estimates, or how does?
No, we do those for free.
Okay.
So there's no cost with a site survey, so there's no barrier to entry. You might as well have us come out and take a look at it, because it's free. We do it for free. And if we can serve the need, then we're happy to do it.
Yeah, that's a great point too, because a lot of people I talk to, they're apprehensive about engaging with a handyman or service provider because they don't do it very often, and a lot of times there's hesitation around pricing and scoping, and am I getting a fair deal? Is this guy gonna do a crappy job, and all that? I know you guys do a great job at Handyman Heroes. So kind of, what's your advice for someone who has a project in mind? What's your best advice for how to go about getting that project done in a smart way?
That's a good question. People do ask me that from time to time. I mean, of course, they can hire us, or they can hire someone else on the market. There's other people. There's very few entities that do quite exactly what we do. We have a little bit of a different spin on it, to be really honest. But if you're hiring a service provider, a lot of people are doing that, and they're operating in a world that they're not very familiar with.
Exactly.
Maybe it's their first time. Maybe they're a first-time home buyer. Maybe they've got someone off of Yelp or someone out of the phone book or some other type of way. So you're going to want to check if that person has appropriate references. You're going to want to check if that person has appropriate licensing and insurance. Those are important. Workman's comp. And reviews. Nowadays on social media, people have reviews. So you can check and sort of see, all the ordinary kind of due diligence that you would do. Because, you're letting somebody into your home. Yeah. And that is, we've worked really hard to build a brand that allows the consumer to feel that level of trust coming in the door. Because I understand this, like I said, I've done this for 20 years. I've worked in thousands and thousands and thousands of people's homes, which has been an honor for me. Yeah. But at the same time, when you're letting somebody into your home, you want to feel really comfortable that you've made a good decision in who to hire. And the price is a thing, because like a kitchen remodel can cost money, and you want to make sure that you're getting a good deal there. And at the same time, if it's a smaller job like a repair or something like that, I mean, we've all heard stories about the handyman that comes and is not really appropriate for your house. Maybe he's got some problems or whatever, and we're not doing that. Price is a factor, sure, of course, but at the same time, if you're willing to pay for a premium type of a service, that's what we're going to deliver.
Gotcha. And another question is, because people may not be familiar with how much work or the scope of the actual problem they have in their house. My question is, handyman can do a lot of general types of work. What's the thought process between someone hiring a handyman to fix the problem versus going to someone more specialized, like a carpenter or a plumber or electrician, and getting that done?
Well, that's a good question. In the state of California, a handyman per se is able to do jobs up to $600, and that's over $600. Somebody who's going to do a project over $600 is required by the state of California to have a contractor's license. Got it. Okay. Actually, now there are handymen who do not have contractors; they're unlicensed contracting. Yeah. And they do larger projects, and that can be okay. But again, you've increased your exposure. You've increased your risk by allowing that to happen, because there's no insurance. There's no. So getting a licensed contractor is going to be a better thing overall. If the project merely involves one trade, like electrical or plumbing or something like that, then you could hire that electrician or that plumber. But a lot of people find that the convenience of having a business that can serve those multiple trades is worth it. Yes. Because we'll come on and take on that plumbing repair or that electrical repair, and we'll be there for you long term.
And because you guys are licensed and you guys do larger construction work too, if in fact the project does need to grow in size or scope, you're already there, able to help out as well. So that's very convenient.
That's the intent. What we find is 99 times out of 100, someone will hire us for a small job. We call it the audition job. Yeah. And once we've done a good job, we earn the opportunity, and they say, oh, by the way, we're thinking about remodeling this bathroom, or we're thinking about doing this kitchen, or adding a deck, or adding an addition, or an in-law suite, whatever it could be.
I love the business.
I
like the idea, yeah.
Right, yeah. And so then, and we've positioned ourselves, they see how we operate. Yeah. So it gives them a simple barrier, a simple entry point to start doing business with us and see how they like us. Got it.
And going back to kind of the scoping and pricing, you mentioned before, some projects are bound enough that you guys can give an estimate over the phone. I know it's a tough question, but is there any sense of or any price ranges you can give for common projects?
Well,
not tying you to this, but just in general.
That's fine. Yeah. At the small, it's because it's a great question. It's really relevant to people. Yeah. So at the smaller end of the scale, if we go out on an hourly for a small job, our book rate's $95 an hour. So that's whether we're doing electrical work, whether we're doing carpentry, whatever we're doing. So it's just a book, and we have a 2-hour minimum. Got it. So, our pretty much our smallest ticket's $190. And, we'll come out and fix, everyone's got 2 hours worth of stuff that needs to be done. So we can come out and do that. And if I send out a crew of 2, then I'm typically going to send out one hero and a helper. I'll typically bill the helper at $65. So now I've got a blended rate, because I got a 95 and a 65. And, that goes up to any job up to a day, couple days. Over that, we're able to kind of wheel and deal a little more. Yeah. In terms of if somebody has a larger job, let's say a kitchen, what does a kitchen cost? Well, it kind of depends on the kitchen. That's kind of like saying, what does a car cost? It kind of depends on the car. Or a meal in a restaurant. Yeah. It kind of depends on the restaurant. So we sit down with the client. They can take as much time as they want. We sit and talk about what their needs are, what their budgetary expectations are, and we work collaboratively to try to put together a proposal that's going to meet their needs. So at the smaller end of the scale, it's kind of time and materials.
Sure.
Larger end of the scale, we're creating a proposal that might be a fixed price, or it might be set on a certain different type of basis.
Yeah, and again, speaking to the low barrier to entry, it doesn't cost anything to get an estimate. So even if whatever question you have or problem you have at your home, it is probably worth just having a conversation, just to get the wheels going a little bit and see what this thing could actually cost to get done by a professional who's licensed and so on. You serve all 9 counties in the Bay Area.
We do.
You are based here in San Francisco, but you guys go all over the place. For people that own homes in San Francisco or intend to own homes in San Francisco, are there any common types of projects you guys are running into that are more you're seeing come up a lot?
That's a good question. San Francisco has got its own unique.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of different neighborhoods, a lot of shared walls or blind walls. In San Francisco, you have, because we live in a seismic territory, we get a lot of settlement. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of doors and windows that don't work. A lot of single pane or double hung windows that don't go up and down. They've been painted shut, the old Victorian windows. The city of San Francisco is very fussy on if you're going to replace those windows. They've got to be replaced, at least on the front facade.
Yes.
They've got to be wood windows or replaced in kind. A lot of restrictions on that type of a thing. Aside that, it's there's a lot of old knob and tube wiring still out there. There's a lot of old Federal Pacific or Zinco service panels still out there. If you have a Federal Pacific or a Zinco service panel, those have been considered pretty much past the end of their useful lifespan. So I would recommend any of your viewers that find themselves in that position to sort of reach out because they're pretty much, they've gotten to the point where they're kind of not usable anymore. Those are different types of things. Of course, we have the salt air. So that tends to, things do tend to sort of decay, dry rot is an issue.
Yeah.
Pretty wide variety of things in San Francisco. We got the hills, parking's always an issue.
Yeah, exactly. And then turning for a moment to your other business, Socialist Construction, which we'll drop the information for that in the comments afterwards too. Talk to us a bit about it's a boutique contracting firm. Kind of talk about the business and what you guys do there.
Well, Socialist Construction has been our flagship, and as I said, it's been my business for going on 20 years now. Mm-hmm. So in that time, we've built it up as a boutique shop. We've served many, many millionaires. We've served 5 billionaires, which is kind of rarefied.
Yeah.
Even in San Francisco. And, we've had the opportunity to operate in that space. And so that's why when the idea for Handyman Heroes came along, we felt that we had the experience to execute that because we knew at that portion of the market what the needs were going to be. And it could be simple things like, don't let the cat out or take off your shoes or just what the expectations and the needs are going to be for a handyman or a contractor working in that space.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, working in the billionaire sort of category, it's not really any different than anything else, except for the ways in which it's a little different.
Yeah.
And where service becomes a primary focus.
There's different expectations around professionalism, the service, the execution of the projects.
Communication is a big thing, and we expect communications. We don't want things to be dropping through the cracks. And so that I would say we do. Solstice is still a viable construction entity. Mm-hmm. We do have projects going right now. Mm-hmm. But really, it's a great business. Yeah. I love it. And at the same time, Handyman Heroes is really the one that we're building up because we think that it can, we are serving the 9-county Bay Area, and we anticipate that it could potentially move its way out of San Francisco, out of the San Francisco market.
I think it's a very smart model that you guys have built out because you guys can scale up and down from the smallest of projects, fixing a doorknob, all the way up to working on a billionaire's home, and so anything in between. And the smaller projects are presumably lower dollar value, but those I kind of think of as base hits that can eventually get you to a grand slam, right? So I think it's very, very smart. Again, on the Solstice business, I know the prices range, but give us a sense of kind of the types of projects you work on, and if you can, some ranges of what they might cost.
Well, at this stage, Solstice is really, there's another interesting point there is we developed the Handyman Heroes brand. I've got my bright red Handyman Heroes shirt on. And I thought that people might have a little disconnect in that they might not want to hire Handyman Heroes to do a larger job. And it's interesting what the market then proceeds to tell you, because it turns out in San Francisco, people have no hesitation hiring Handyman Heroes to do a $500,000 job.
Well, with that
fine with it.
With the hoodie, you fit right in with all the startup guys.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
It's Handyman Heroes. It's got a little bit of a more. It's not a whole lot of edge, but a little edgy, just because our logo is kind of a comic book figure.
Sure.
And people now, especially this next generation of home buyers that have moved into the San Francisco area, appreciate that.
Yeah.
They get it.
Yeah.
And it's handymanhero.es, so they kind of get that. It's a domain hack. And so they kind of understand where we're coming from. Like, hey, this is kind of a next generation thing.
Yeah.
But the crucial difference, again, is that we are not just referring them to a handyman out on the street. We're not a two-sided marketplace. So these guys work for me. I like to say we are the Apple of handyman.
Gotcha.
Like, we manage the experience from end to end. And it turns out there's a good market for Apple products.
Yeah.
So that there's a proof of concept there that people want a service that they don't have to be worried about or think about. And we 16, 20 hours a day, we're out there trying to provide that.
Wow. Gotcha. Well, I know we are up against it in terms of time. I want to thank, again, Larry for joining us. Any closing thoughts for the audience? Any final tidbits you want to leave the audience with?
Well, Riley, first of all, thank you for having me.
Sure.
This is great. And for your audience, if they're considering hiring a contractor, if they're considering hiring a handyman, I would encourage them to reach out. They could maybe check our website. We do have some information there at www.handymanhero.es, Edgar Sam. And I would encourage them to reach out to you at Keller Williams also if they have questions about real estate and real estate. You're doing a great service by presenting the opportunity of these various other ancillary businesses. So I'd encourage them to get in touch with you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Larry. That was my goal. I mean, I talk to people like yourself every day anyways, and I say, well, why not expose my conversations I'm having with the audience just in the sake of transparency and trying to reach an audience at scale. So that's my goal, and I appreciate that. Again, we'll drop Larry's contact information into the comments, Handyman Heroes and all that, also as well as Solstice. I want to thank you guys for joining us. We also have a lot of great other guests lined up these next few weeks. So looking forward to continue to bring you guys great content this coming year. Hope everyone's had a great new year so far, and talk to you guys again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.